Welcome to the Breaking News Bears podcast. I'm your host, Chris Capone, joined alongside my co-host once again, Evan Davis. And the AL Central dogfight is getting really interesting coming to the end of August. As of this recording, the Guardians are currently one game ahead of the Royals for the division lead after just squeaking by a win this afternoon. We'll be talking about this and two other close races, one for the AL East and one for the NL West, along with potential suitors and landing spots for Juan Soto, and also as the wild card race is starting to heat up, but the race between the Mets and the Braves for that final wild card spot. But first, I'll ask you, Evan, who is going to win the AL Central, the Royals or the Guardians?
I feel like you got to say the Royals at this point. The Guardians are kind of just teetering. And, even today they barely squeaked by. And I didn't really understand the manager's decision for the Royals to allow Michael Wacha to go back out in for the seventh inning when he already had 91 pitches through six. But I think it's just the Royals starting pitching staff that is really, really dominant. And that's why I think they're going to win this division. They have Lugo, Singer, Wacha, and Reagans. Those are four quality starters that they could throw out.
Yeah, the Royals pitching staff is a lot better at this point compared to the Guardians pitching staff. I mean, we have it listed here in the notes that Tristan McKenzie obviously has been awful. Shane Bieber has been injured. Logan Allen's been injured and bad when he's been up too. It's really been rough for the Guardians starting rotation, but their bullpen has been insane. Like Emmanuel
Hmm.
Clase, what a season for him! Like the Cy Young caliber season he's having right now, where
Hmm.
it's looking where it's either him or Tariq Skubal for the AL Cy Young, and that's insane for a closer at this point. The last time a reliever won the Cy Young was Eric Gagne, but what an what a great bullpen, but what an awful starting rotation for the Guardians right now.
Oh yeah, I mean it's atrocious their starting rotation. You brought it up, but it's also just their offense is so terrible. I mean, the Guardians rank 22nd in batting average, 19th in on-base percentage, and then also 19th in OPS. This is just an anemic offense that got hot today, but really is kind of just hot or cold. And you just look at it. I really don't trust them. They traded for Lane Thomas, but Lane Thomas has been absolutely awful since coming over from the Washington Nationals. And I thought that was a guy that they could plug in at the top of their lineup and be like a table setter for a guy like Josh Naylor and Jose Ramirez. But he's been horrible lately. And you look at the Royals with Vinny Pasquantino, Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, who had the grand slam in this series as well, the two big home runs to steal a win from the Guardians. It's just the Royals, top to bottom, are a much better team.
Yeah, and one thing about the Royals is they have three guys that can genuinely get 100 RBIs this year. And that's kind of crazy because you wouldn't really expect that coming into the year where Salvador Perez is at like Salvador Perez, Bobby Witt Jr., and Vinny Pasquantino are all above 90 RBIs and they're almost at 100 by the end of August. And it's really been, those three, that three-headed monster at the top of their lineup where you don't really know who you could pitch to right now because all of them have been so consistently good this year and driving runners home.
Yeah, and even a guy like Michael Garcia, who's hitting in the top of the lineup with 23 doubles, five triples on the year. This is an offense that is definitely getting carried by those three. And then if you want to include Michael Garcia, those four guys, because then after that, it's kind of just guys that are filling in whenever they can. Guys like MJ Melendez, Renfro, Kyle Isbell, Paul DeYoung, who since coming over from the White Sox has just been electric with the Royals. In 20 games with the Royals, he already has five home runs and 12 runs batted in. Does strike out a fair bit, but he's batting 300 with a 968 OPS since coming over.
Yeah, he's been a real good addition for them, which something that when they initially made the trade, it was like, oh, okay, he's mainly plays shortstop, but they've been plugging him in at third, and he's been a pretty decent third baseman for them. He committed to hasn't played too bad defensively, and he's really,
Mhm.
as you said, he's hit five home runs in 20 games for the Royals, and that's something, he had hit 18 for the White Sox this year, and it's something that he had shown power earlier in his career, but something that had been lost as of recent years, and it seems that he's found that power stroke again with 23 home runs on the season total.
Yeah, I that might be the most random 23 home runs I've ever seen. I didn't even realize that Paul DeYoung was that talented offensively.
Yeah. Um, they do have solid bullpen arms, but like the Royals bullpen has been kind of not as good as
Hmm.
of recently. They've been giving up a little bit more. They had traded for Michael Lorenzen. That's
Hmm.
another guy they added to their rotation who's also been a really great addition for them in his 5 start. His last start yesterday, he went out with an injury, only pitched an inning and 2/3. But other than that, he had been really solid for the Royals so far in his 5 starts, 185 ERA in 24 innings. He's been a really good addition for them. Somebody that, you know, they needed help in their starting rotation, and they made a really solid trade for a guy that they didn't have to give up much for. And it's something, they always make good deals with the Rangers at the deadline. That
Hmm.
they, as of last year, they traded Aroldis Chapman for Cole Reagans, and now they traded Walter Pennington, who hadn't really done much in
Yeah.
his brief time in the majors.
Yeah, I
Um,
actually got to see him pitch. That was pretty cool. I got to
yeah,
see him when I went to the Rangers game.
but yeah, that's the Royals have done a pretty good job making deals with the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Lorenzen is literally the definition of just a depth guy. I mean, he's not a strikeout guy, but he also walks a fair bit. His strikeout to walk rate is 1.7 with the Royals, which isn't ideal, but it's just a 1.85 ERA. He's only allowed 5 runs through his 5 starts, and that's exactly what the Royals need.
Yeah. Um, Moving on, we could talk about, the AL East has been another one of those dogfights where it seems like every other day it's flip-flopping between the Orioles and the Yankees, where the
Mhm.
division lead. And the Orioles are coming up into a really tough series with the Dodgers. Obviously, they had won the first game yesterday, but the Orioles had kind of been sputtering for a little bit. Uh, it looked like they were about to almost get swept by the Astros, but they had 2 comeback from behind wins back-to-back days where that kind of lifted their spirits. Jackson Holiday 3-run double stole a game for them pretty much.
Mhm.
Um, but the Yankees have been, they had a series where against the Rockies, and now they're up in a series against the Nationals, and they've only won 3 out of the 5 games where, you're expecting them to have them swept both teams. The Nationals and the Rockies aren't really playing for anything right now. Um,
Yeah, I
but
mean, it's kind of crazy just because like you lost the game between Patrick Corbin and Garrett Cole. That
yeah,
was the crazy part is like you would think that's a guaranteed win for the Yankees, but Patrick Corbin just happened to pitch a gem.
yeah, especially a Patrick Corbin gem is crazy to happen with a 5.50 ERA right now. Zero earned runs, or 0 runs at all. Not even uh nothing coming in at all on Patrick Corbin. Only 2 hits and 2 walks off Patrick Corbin seems really like that's really bad for everybody had been taking their fair hits off of Patrick Corbin and getting runs in.
Yeah, I
Uh
mean, it's basically batting practice against a guy like Patrick Corbin, but the
yeah,
Yankees, that's the thing with baseball. And like, people, I mean, it's getting off topic, but people are freaking out because, Corbin Burns is on the mound today against Walker Buehler, but it's like, that's just baseball. Like Patrick Corbin beat Garrett Cole. Anything can happen.
yeah. I mean, you think about it, so far this guy's led the majors 3 out of the last 4 years in earned runs,
Hmm.
and hits. And 2 of the last 3 years he's led the majors in hits given up.
Hmm.
And it's like you never know. Every night's different where in
Yeah.
baseball.
Yeah.
Um,
And, you look at the Orioles tonight, obviously I just mentioned Corbin Burns on the mound, who this month of August has kind of been a woof. 8.71 ERA in 4 games and 20 and 2/3 innings. He's given up, it's 18 strikeouts to 7 walks, which isn't, terrible, but it's just, you look at, he got roughed up against the Astros, got roughed up against the Red Sox, and even the Guardians. His only really good game was against the Tampa Bay Rays, but he still gave up 3 runs in 6 innings against a very subpar offense, which means he's
yeah.
going to throw a no hitter tonight. But, you know, I want to have this saved so I know that I called it.
Yeah, that's another thing about baseball. You have these guys where Corbin Burns has been lights out the whole year, and then one bad month, the dog days of August, and he's been pretty below average. He's been giving up huge outings to teams like Boston, like Houston, like Tampa.
Hmm.
Uh, it's really been a rough month for him, but as you said, he's probably gonna throw a no-hitter tonight. But the
Yeah.
Orioles have been dealing with injuries as a whole. Zach Eflin recently put on the
Mhm.
15-day IL. Trevor Rogers sent to AAA for just being terrible. Um,
And Trevor Rogers start Trevor Rogers his start in
Norfolk AAA.
AAA. I mean, do we
Yeah.
want to talk about it? Do we want to talk about it?
I mean, he's been bad.
4 and a third innings, and he gave up 10 earned runs.
Bro
Like, and then again,
he was a bulk guy for the AAA team.
yeah, I mean, he like that trade might go down as like one of the worst in franchise history. And I don't really think that's a stretch to say when you look at that they gave up Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby. I mean, it's finally the Orioles did something wrong.
Yeah, especially with how Connor Norby's been playing recently for the Marlins, where he had two back-to-back games with a leadoff homer,
Hmm.
and it granted it's a really brief sample size, it's only 8 games with Miami, but he's put up an over 1,000 OPS, 344 batting average. Like
Hmm.
I said, really small sample size, but he's been really good for Miami so far, and it just seems like what happened with the Trevor Rogers deal was just we all knew it was going to be a bad deal, and it's only been exemplified in these last couple starts, and now even down in AAA for Trevor Rogers.
And they have him on the books for next year.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah, it's interesting, but like you look at it still like hopefully Grayson Rodriguez comes back, but you know, I just don't know who wins this division. But like whoever wins the division is most likely going to have the 1 seed.
yeah, with the way everything's going on in the AL Central right now, where the teams are constantly like playing each other, it seems like the Royals and the Guardians and the Twins are always playing each other every other week. It seems like even after this next series between the Pirates and the Guardians, they play the Royals again for another 3 game set.
Hmm.
It's there's constantly parity going on between these teams. Um, I don't think that whoever, yeah, like as you said, whoever wins the AL East is probably going to have the 1 seed,
Yeah.
um, just because of the amount of times these two teams are playing each other.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, the AL East has been such a questionable uh at the top with between the two bullpens, where the Yankees bullpen has been, you know, Clay Holmes hasn't really been. He's been locking down saves, but he hasn't really shown to be dominant in those saves where
Hmm.
uh he's not really racking up strikeouts and he's getting into trouble early in innings
Hmm.
where uh he's blown so many saves whereas uh like it shouldn't happen for
Hmm.
starting for a closer at the start at the top of the division right now to be giving up not have this much confidence in their team that it's pretty bad.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at both of these bullpens, it's kind of just like you hope and pray. It's like you throw a grenade and hope it doesn't hit you.
Explode,
Yeah,
yeah.
you look at I mean, Sir Anthony Dominguez has been really, really solid for the Orioles, but I was hoping for a legacy Craig Kimbrell appearance last night to really give the Dodgers the win, but we didn't get that. But you look at Kimbrell, I mean, Gregory Soto has kind of been, it's like the Orioles wanted the Phillies rejects and just
Yeah.
decided to take those guys on. But I mean, you look at it like Cino Perez is filthy, Yiner Cano is filthy, but you can't only rely on those two guys to pitch for you. And Soto this year, an ERA above 5 uh this season, but it's really not been what you were hoping for. I mean, you look at his ERA with the Baltimore Orioles, a 12.71 ERA through 5 and 2/3 innings. Like that is just not ideal in your bullpen right now.
Yeah. And one thing about the Orioles is, as we previously mentioned with the injuries, their starting rotation is hammered right now, where Grayson Rodriguez, Zach Eflin are both out. Trevor Rogers is obviously just bad, but they previously had Kyle Bradish and John Means out for the season, which led them to making these moves to get Trevor Rogers and Zach Eflin. But right now
Mhm.
they're trotting out their Cade Povich,
Yeah.
who's still 24 years old, but he hasn't been really that good in his brief time in the majors so far. And Albert Suarez has been in and out between the bullpen and the starting line or starting rotation.
Hmm.
Dean Kramer has been in and out, but he's also not been that good. Cole Irvin's another one like Albert Suarez, where he's been in and out, kind of like a bulk guy, kind of a starter. It's really been just Corbin Burns and whoever else they could throw around him at this point, because the rest of the team so far, the rest of the starting rotation has just been injured.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Cade Povic. He'll be starting tomorrow night for the Orioles. At least that's what it's expected. And I think it is fair to say that like the Orioles are kind of just pitching around Corbin Burns and hoping for a prayer. And this month of August, Corbin Burns has not been all that solid. And it's just like, what do you do at this point? But I still think that this team is capable of going far in the playoffs just because their offense can be so electric at times. You look at Rutschman, Santander, Gunnar Henderson, I want to say Jackson Holiday, but he's just been so streaky. Then again, he's 20 years old, but you have Mountcastle, who, I mean, he's on the IL right now, but I'm talking about when healthy.
Yeah.
Ryan O'Hearn's starting to heat up. I mean, this is a really, really deep, underrated lineup that just needs average starting pitching in order to get by.
Yeah. The Orioles, yeah, their offense has been really good recently, or just the whole season, where Rutschman's been kind of in a down curve recently, where he started off the year hitting like 300 and like now he's down to 262 batting average, where
Hmm.
it's in this slow decline. And then there's a tweet I saw put out where the only two hitters that have regressed every month are both Ryan M's, where it's Ryan Mountcastle and Ryan McMahon for the Rockies,
Hmm.
where their OPS both started around like 890 to start the year, and then like 750 in May, and then like
Yeah.
700 in June. And it's just been this slow decline
Hmm.
where I think in August so far, I know he's been on the IL, but Mountcastle had like a 550 OPS in August, where it's been
Yep. I
kind of
mean, I
slim
can
pickings for him to get hits.
I can definitely attest to that as someone who has, gone on the wild ride with him. But Mountcastle has always kind of just been like that streaky hitter. Like I never really viewed him as a guy that's like, absolutely dominant, that's going to continuously tattoo the ball. But yeah, to your point, the month of August, he was batting 225 with a 567 OPS and an on base at 257, with no home runs and seven RBIs. Whereas you look at his month of July when he was spectacular with a 272 batting average. I mean, I'm sorry, not spectacular, but within average. And yeah, I mean, he's kind of just been around that 250-ish mark, I think is fair to say. I mean, he's really declined as of late, hasn't really been that home run guy that they were hoping, only 13 on the year, but he's just been that average hitter nonetheless.
I mean, you look at it, he had that bid to be an all-star where he was
Hmm.
by the end of June, he was looking really solid and was in the conversation definitely.
Hmm.
Um, by the end of June, he had 11 home runs and he's only hit two home runs in the two preceding months, and it's been really slim pickings for Ryan Mountcastle this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
so the two teams that we're talking about, the Orioles and the Yankees, they have a really big series coming up between them. Um, Near the end of September, September 24th to 26th. I just want to ask you now, who do you think actually wins the AL East? Do you think it's going to be the Orioles or the Yankees?
Uh, Gee, I've been going back and forth, and I think I would just say the Yankees just because I would trust their starting pitching more. And
Hmm.
I don't know when Grayson Rodriguez is coming back. Do I really trust a guy like Cole Irvin, who looked good last night, but it's just, that was his first start back. Cade Povich, do I really trust him? Albert Suarez, I don't really trust, but then you look at the Yankees side, I put a lot more faith in guys like Nestor Cortez, Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman. Like those four, I would trust more down the stretch of the season.
I mean, yeah, and we talk about the Orioles offense. I mean, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are on just completely different levels. The rest of the lineup is a question mark right now, where
Yeah.
other than Austin Wells and like sometimes whenever Giancarlo Stanton's healthy, other than
Hmm.
those two, it's looking like the rest of the lineup is uh doesn't matter because Aaron Judge is out there hitting like 50 home runs.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Um,
you look at the Yankees offense, it's Judge with 122 RBIs, Soto with 95, and then next best is Stan with 57.
who had missed 40 games.
who's only played in 90 games, which is just ridiculous that he has 23 home runs in 90 games. Like that is just that's insanity. That's almost like a 50 home run pace or around like the 40 home run, 45 home run pace mark. And even like Verdugo's been slacking, but I guess he just found out he's allergic to batting gloves. I think he's just allergic to hitting.
But yeah, this Yankees offense has been really bad, other than the previously mentioned Judge and Soto. Jazz Chisholm's been a really good addition, but he had been dealing with some ailments, I think, recently, where he'd been
Hmm.
missing a couple of games.
Hmm.
Um, and he's been playing third base for them. He's been solid, putting up a 970 OPS for them. But it's really only been two guys so far. But the rest of the Yankees starting rotation has been really good too, where
Hmm.
Luis Hill has been kind of on a down curve too recently, where he recently just got put on the 15-day IL.
Hmm.
Carlos Rodon has kind of seemingly found a little bit of a niche. He's getting paid and however much money he's getting paid.
What was it
But
like? Maybe he get paid like 162, something like
yeah,
that. He got the same contract as Freeman. That's the only thing I remember.
yeah. And he had a good start recently, but it was against Colorado.
Hmm.
So it doesn't really count much. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the Yankees are going to end up taking the division where it's just I trust their starting rotation right now a lot more than I do trust Corbin Burns and whoever else they can find scrummaging around their bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that we both agree that it's going to be the New York Yankees that will come away with the division.
Yeah. Moving on, we could talk about a division race that isn't quite as close as the other two, but it's still pretty close with both teams being within 3 games of the division leader. The NL West has been an insane dogfight recently, as ever since the All-Star break. It's just been, I believe you sent me a post where they have the best three records in baseball, obviously, but
Mhm.
it's not even close compared to who's fourth and fifth. Like the top five records in baseball, and then it's the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Padres, and then the next record isn't even close to those three right now.
Yeah, I
But
mean, you look at those three teams, the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Padres, and combined, they're 74 and 31 since the All-Star break.
yeah, they've been insane, and they're the only team in baseball right now with 374 plus winners. Uh, Now, granted, they do have the Rockies in their division where it's slightly less of a competition there, but the whole NL West has just been really fun and interesting to watch recently, where you get to see every single night. It's just close game after close game, and a lot of the times they're playing each other or another team in the wild card race, where it's really been as the season's winding down, they're amping up and getting you know fun games out of everything. There was recently the Jackson Merrill walk off against the Mets. It's been a
Hmm.
really fun time to watch the all these three teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's kind of annoying. I'm glad you think that it's fun to watch, but
Oh,
you
I don't have
know,
to worry about anything right now. Like,
yeah, I know. I'm kind of I've been on team wild card where I really don't want the Dodgers to win the division because it hasn't worked out at all. And I hate the way that the playoff format is. But I mean, you just look at all three of these teams, and from an outsider's perspective, I mean, how could you not enjoy what you're watching right now? It's just like Jackson Merrill is the NL Rookie of the Year. You have Michael King, Dylan Cease in that rotation. You have Jason Adam, Tanner Scott, Robert Suarez in the bullpen. And then you look at the Diamondbacks, who, I mean, if they were in any other division, they would be my second favorite team just because they're so fun to watch. The way that Corbin Carroll's been hitting. And then you look at Adrian Del Castillo and you look at guys like Eugenio Suarez, who hits a grand slam over the monster, and Jock Peterson, Christian Walker, Josh Bell. I mean, they just have a bunch of power.
I mean, yeah, you look at this upcoming series after the Dodgers play the Orioles, they play a 4 game set with the Diamondbacks, and that's looking like a really important series. It's still really it's just peeking into the beginning of September, but it's looking like a really big series for both of these teams where the Diamondbacks could end up taking the division lead for a couple of games because then the Dodgers do end up playing the Angels for a 2 game set. But
Oh, thank God.
it's looking like a really important series at the beginning of September that could be some early signs of postseason baseball. Like this could be a preview of a potential wild card series.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, like I'm kind of just at the point where it's like if they win the division, it's cool, but like I don't really see like I just don't really care at this point. But yeah, that 4 game set, you look at it, the Dodgers, I mean, they have the three big names that they want on the mound in Kershaw, Stone, and Flaherty. And then well, they got to figure it out. I most likely think that they flip-flop around some games, try to see maybe Bobby Miller gets the start in that Monday game, move Bueller to the Tuesday against the Angels. But, after that, it's going to be tough sledding for both teams. So that you mentioned the Dodgers will have the two with the Angels, but then the Guardians come into town for three, and then the Cubs come into town, and then they go to Atlanta. And, you look at the mid-September schedule, that's where they can really try to separate themselves if there is any separation needed with 6 games with the Rockies and the Marlins. I mean, they got to come away 5-1 at that point. But, what I'm really amped up for is the Diamondbacks Padres series. That's the final series of the regular season.
Yeah, it's looking like oh wait, no, it's the second
Second
last
to
series.
last.
The last series they also play against the Rockies in Colorado, which could be a
Mm,
potential spoiler. The Rockies could be looking to play spoiler with whoever's the
yeah.
hell's on the bottom of their bench. Um, but yeah, the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Padres are all looking like it's looking like such a fun end to the season
Hmm.
where the Padres are sneakily, they've got a light gap in their schedule coming up too, where they're playing St. Louis this week. The end of the end of this week they play the Rays, then they play the Tigers, and it's the Giants, Mariners, and Giants again. Where it's look, and then they have a series against the White Sox right before they play the Dodgers 3 game set, where the Padres are sneakily adding. They have some not as tough opponents. Like the Dodgers having to play the Braves as a tough opponent. The Guardians, the Cubs have been playing really good recently. They
Hmm.
just came back today from down 10-3 and they've won 14-10.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the Pirates there for you. I mean, I'm not really worried about the Cubs as much as what the scoreboard had said.
Yeah. I'm just saying the Cubs have been playing better baseball as of
No,
recently.
for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it just speaks more to how horrible the Pirates
Yeah.
have been. Poor Paul Skeens, man. He
I
needs
know.
to win NL Rookie of the Year, and they can't even get him a win.
But yeah, this end of the season for the NOS is really looking like one of the biggest dogfights where it comes down to, it's a three-headed race. You can
Hmm.
kind of say the same for the AL Central where the Twins have an outside shot, but I think it's really between like these three teams because they are, like I said with the AL Central, these teams are playing each other a lot to end the season.
And what's crazy is like whichever two teams don't lose the division will just end up playing each other in the wild card,
Yeah.
which is just mind-boggling to me because I mean at that point I'd rather be the third wild card team and just go visit the Milwaukee Brewers for a 3 game set.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a really the way the baseball does their playoff format, I think needs to be re-examined where it comes like
Just
a
do
team
like like
by
um
seeding
mhm.
one through what is it, 7 or 1 through 6?
Yeah, 1 through 6, I think. But yeah, we're just like best record in terms of records, because it's just like at that point, if I'm the Braves, I'd much rather just finish as the third wild card team and go play a Milwaukee Brewers pitching staff that has Freddie Peralta, and then it's kind of just hit or miss with Savali and Montas.
Yeah, rather than playing the hot Diamondbacks or Padres, or even if the Dodgers somehow don't make the playoffs or
Whoa, 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 whoa,
don't win the division.
whoa.
If the Dodgers somehow don't win the division, I'd rather play, as you said, the Brewers rather than any of those three NOS teams at this point.
Hmm. Yeah, no,
Yeah. Do you think the Dodgers still end up winning the division though?
I think it's tough to. I say yes. Like I say yes only because the Padres and the Diamondbacks have been this hot and the Dodgers still have a 3 game lead in the division. Like they've done just enough to like obviously the division lead was at 9 games in what was it, mid-July or something, but I wasn't really expecting it to be at 9 games come the end of the season. But the fact that the Diamondbacks and the Padres are like 26-8 in their last 34 games, and they still haven't gotten the division lead. Just I have all the faith in the world that the Dodgers will win it, and this is without Glass now and Yamamoto, who I'm so confused on the Glass now situation just because he said he's fine, but then the Dodgers said that he's not fine. I kind of think it's like a Phantom IL stint just because he's kind of reached his innings limit.
Yeah.
Yamamoto pitches a rehab game today on a Wednesday, August 28th in OKC, which ironically the same series Jacob deGrom is in. But I just like something is telling me that Glass now is fine, and it's just because they don't want to overuse him in the regular season because we've seen him just explode in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his like this has already been a career high in innings for Tyler Glasnow. Now. Career high in games started in a single season for him. I
Hmm.
think with him, you got to be a lot more careful just because he's had that injury history. I
Hmm.
think it's fine to, maybe he comes back for a last couple starts around September when Yamamoto comes back up. You can
Hmm.
have them both activated on the same day or something.
Oh,
Where,
it'd be like Hanukkah early.
yeah, but I think the Dodgers are trying to be, you know, cautious with him just because you don't want to have him pitching 200 innings when he's never even pitched above 140 before.
Yeah, and that's why, like, the organization of the Dodgers has always just been like they're always so like low key with everything, but I think they're just making it seem worse than it is. So that way it's like there's not more questioning, like, oh, is this like a phantom IL stint? Where like, no, like he's genuinely hurt because he said 3 days ago that he's feeling fine. And then he said that he could have started his last game, but I mean, you look at it, he had a 3.49 ERA, but he had an expected ERA of like a 2.5 this year, a whip under one. You mentioned this was his most innings by 14 this year, but he was still absolutely phenomenal. And part of me just thinks that it's just we don't want to risk it. Like that is just the only logic that I have.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers are feeling the same way where it's not worth to have him potentially injure himself when they're just fine having him. Maybe he comes back, throws two more starts. Let's say it's around 6 innings each. They're fine with having him near 150 innings rather than closing in
Mhm.
on 200 when he's never done that before.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's what it comes down to.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, I think I know I asked you the question, but I think the Dodgers are also going to end up winning the division. I just think they have the lead already, and they do have the middle of September is a really easy, break in it all, where you
Hmm.
play the Marlins and you play the Rockies, and then the last series of the season you also play the Rockies. I think the Dodgers are going to end up winning the division. I won't say it'll be by much. I think they could only win by,
I think it'll be like by 3.5 at
yeah,
the most. Like
yeah,
I'd say like it stays at this pace where it's like around 3 to 4 games.
yeah. I don't think they walk away with it. I think you come into the second last series where they play the Padres, it could be really big and it could mean a lot. But I
Yeah, but
think,
then you get the help of the Diamondbacks and Padres playing each other. So then
yeah,
it's like,
that's where I think it'll come down to at the end of the year. I think the
yeah.
Dodgers will end up winning the division, but it won't be by much, but I think the Dodgers will end up winning it.
Yeah, and you look at like obviously with the September call-ups, like I wouldn't be shocked if you see like a Justin Robleski or Landon Knack kind of just, take over for a couple of starts and just give breaks to guys like Kershaw and even Flaherty. And we all know Bueller needs something in his
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, I think even running a six-man rotation, especially in that middle series, those middle September series, I think that would be a decent thing for them to do. Get an extra rest day for Kershaw, get an extra rest day for Flaherty. Even if
Hmm.
you do end up calling up Glasnow, you can give him an extra rest day. Just I think that's
Hmm.
what will be the best interest for the Dodgers to have them all rested for the playoffs, where that's when you'll need them the most. Because you see when even last year when the Dodgers had home field advantage and that series against the Diamondbacks, they just ended their starting pitching got hammered.
Gosh.
Granted, they did have Kershaw and Lance Lynn start games, but still, it's better to have your starting pitchers rested going into the playoffs rather than
Mhm.
having them be constantly overworked and having their arms fall off when it matters most.
Yeah, and I think they're just being like just way too overly cautious because of the lack of success in the last two postseasons.
Yeah. Moving on, we could go to this last, or not this last story, but NL wild card between the Mets and the Braves right now has also been a really closely contested series where we talked about this a couple episodes ago where we thought the Braves were dead in the water.
Hmm.
Once the Austin Riley injury was brought to light and he's gone for basically the rest of the season, 6 to 8 weeks, it seemed like okay, the Mets are gonna end up sneaking away with that last wild card spot. But
Hmm.
the Braves have been treading water and winning games. They just yesterday they won in extra innings against the Twins.
Hmm.
Um, in the game before that, Whit Merrifield somehow had 5 hits in a game. Uh, 5 hit Whit all of a sudden already.
Yeah, I mean, how about some love for Whit Merrifield? In 27 games played with the Atlanta Braves this year, Merrifield's batting 291 with an 821 OPS, like in a 402 on base percentage. Like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
After doing nothing with the Phillies, he just had to change to another AL or another NL East team and all of a sudden found his groove again.
I don't yeah, I know. 5 hit wit in full effect, man. They moved him to the leadoff spot and it's just been a legacy performance for him at the dish.
Yeah, I mean, last year he had that All-Star appearance and he came into this year in a press conference with the Phillies saying, I've been an All-Star, I've been here, I've done this.
Hmm.
Bro, you've been on the Royals for 2 of those years. I don't know if really I know you've had led the league in hits multiple years, but come on, man. It's not really
Come on,
being the team's
man.
designated All-Star isn't the same as being on a winning All-Star team. You joined the Royals after they had won the World Series.
Yeah.
But still, the Braves have been, yeah, treading water. They've been winning close games recently. It's really been interesting to see that. We both thought the Braves were dead in the water after all these injuries,
Yeah.
but Chris Sale and the rest of the starting rotation, Reynaldo Lopez had just come back.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's really been the pitching staff and whoever they can scrounge up for hitting have been hitting.
Yeah, and I mean, you just look at like Reynaldo Lopez comes back and just absolutely dominates. Max Fried has been really solid as of late. And how about Spencer Schwellenbach? You know, a DraftKings legend over here, but he has just been really, really solid. You know, last night wasn't able to complete a full 5 innings, wouldn't have gotten the win anyways. But you just look at him this season, 87 innings pitched, 102 strikeouts to just 18 walks. And he's a rookie. And
Yeah.
he's a rookie. You know, last night wasn't his, best performance, had a couple of walks, pitch count was pretty high, but the Twins were just fouling off everything. But you just look at his month of August, they haven't brought in, ESPN hasn't included his start last night against the Twins, but prior to that start against the Twins, a 3.65 ERA, 34 strikeouts in 24 and two-thirds innings. That's everything to 5 walks. I mean, that's everything and more you want out of a fifth starter.
Yeah, he's been really great. He's also one of those guys that had been called up because of the injuries that they had
Hmm.
to Spencer Strider. And it's just been really interesting to see that they've been calling up these guys that have been, they haven't thought to use them because it's only been out of a necessity. They had Bryce Elder starting earlier this year, and he's been uh put down into the minors just because of
Hmm.
how poor his performance was. But it's really weird and interesting to see that the Braves have just been treading water and
Yeah.
playing so good recently after losing all these guys to injury.
Yeah, I think that just speaks to Brian Snicker and what he's just been able to do, but also just like the leadership of guys like Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, but it's also just the starting pitching that has really kept them in these games. And that series win against the Phillies in Truist Park was huge for them just because it kept them afloat ahead of the Mets, who, could have won that series against the Padres if it wasn't for Merrill Magic in that fourth and final game. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I believe in the Braves, but it's just I I don't know. I really don't know. You know, they have an upcoming series against the Phillies again. They'll play them. I believe that one will be in Philadelphia. And then after that, they got a pretty solid schedule. Like they end the year really tough with 6 games against the Mets and the Royals, but they have a sweet spot in there against the Marlins and a two-game set against the Nationals. But that, those can always just be like weird opponents to deal with. They have a four-game set in Atlanta against the Dodgers, which is going to be cinema. We brought that up earlier, but they still don't have like a necessarily easy schedule down the stretch.
Yeah, and another factor for how good the Braves have been recently is Raisel Iglesias, who's been
Oh
on an
gosh,
absolute heater recently, where
he's
his
Jesus.
yeah, since June 18th, he has an ERA of 0. He's only allowed in one run, and that was in an what was it? It was in an extra innings game. Or
Yeah,
no, yeah, it was in an extra innings game where he allowed in the one run. So
yeah.
it doesn't add to his ERA total. But since June 18th, he's been the best closer in baseball, it seems. Like it's been really interesting to see that he's just been like this good.
I mean, you look at it over like these last 2 months, and I'll consider this like the last full 2 months, of the year. 23 strikeouts to one walk.
Yeah.
23 strikeouts to one walk.
Yeah, that's he's been the best closer in baseball just to end like these last 2 months.
And
Uh,
it's crazy because he's 34 years old, but I feel like, everyone knew when he got traded from the Angels to the Braves, like what was going to happen.
yeah, the Braves always somehow find these guys. Even like Jesse Chavez, like 41-year-old Jesse Chavez
He's
somehow,
been, yeah,
yeah. But I'm just saying it's like one of those guys where
yeah,
they constantly get added to the Braves and they'll pitch a lot better than what they had done previously with
yeah,
other teams.
yeah. It's
Um,
crazy.
the last story we'll talk about is about Juan Soto and what potential suitors there might be out this offseason, where it's said that the Mets are the most likely to pry away Juan Soto from the Yankees, just with the amount of money they'll give, and it's just across town playing in Queens. And he's had a career in New York so far. But there
Hmm.
was recently Ken Rosenthal, I believe, tweeted out that there's potential interest between a reunion between the Nationals and and Juan Soto. I don't know if I personally believe that, but if the Nationals were somehow some way to get Juan Soto back on their team, what a fleece for everything they've done to the Padres.
I mean, it would just be stupid of them just because they could have had him for so much cheaper, but like obviously Soto wasn't going to sign that contract. But I mean, you look at this team and it's just, I mean, if he goes back to the Nationals, they're not there yet. Like if if Soto was a pending free agent this year, but the Nationals team was like 5 years from now, I think it would make all the sense in the world. But I really think Soto stays in New York.
Yeah. Do you think he's like with the Yankees? He stays
Yeah,
with
I
the
think he
Yankees.
stays with the Yankees.
Yeah.
It just feels so right. And I know that's weird, like a Dodger fan saying that, but like Soto in the pinstripes just feels right.
It does like I don't know how Juan Soto feels about it being the number two on a team. I don't know if he wants because if he signs with the Yankees, it's going to be a 10-year deal pretty much. Like it would be
Hmm.
an insanely long deal taking him to his late 30s.
Hmm.
I don't know if it like I feel like Juan Soto wants to be a one. That's the thing. And I feel like if he were to go cross town and go to the Mets,
Yeah.
he's definitely the one there. He's above Pete Alonso for sure.
Oh,
And
a hundred
and
percent.
that's somebody where I think Juan Soto wants to be a one, and he's obviously not going to be a one in New York, hitting behind Aaron Judge or ahead of
I
Aaron Judge, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I guess it's what division do you view easier to win? Like if I would personally say the AL East is easier to win than the NL East because even if he goes to the Mets, I still wouldn't put them ahead of the Phillies and then like a fully healthy Braves team. It's like, I don't know, but the Yankees, they just got to build out their depth. And I mean, obviously they'll have Jazz Chisholm for a full season next year, but outside of that, the depth chart's kind of weak. I'm not really a fan of Anthony Rizzo, and Ben Rice is, kind of been whatever. Anthony Volpe, I really like. I just think the team needs to give him more time to get into things. Stanton, I think you got to say goodbye to at some point. They got to just get better players. Like they have solid players, they need elite level players, and they also just need a lot better of a bullpen. They really don't have anyone that you can fully rely on.
Yeah, I think the Yankees, yeah, they just need to fill out basically they're the Yankees, they'll end up filling out some way, even next year, even if
Hmm.
it's they'll end up finding some players to add to their depth where they've had Rizzo out for some time with injury, and it's just been kind of minor league call-ups. Ben Rice has been one of those guys where it's been a minor league call-up where he really only played catcher, but he
Hmm.
had to move to first base playing for the Yankees.
Hmm.
Um, I just think I see the yes, obviously the best fit for Juan Soto right now would be to stay with the Yankees and
Or go to the Dodgers, like
hey, how much more deferred money?
yeah.
Yeah, but
Seriously.
I think that's the best fit to stay with New York. But I just don't know if Juan Soto. I mean, he's already had his World Series, but I
Hmm.
think Juan Soto might want to look at it as a team where I want to be the guy. I want to be the guy for a team. I
I
don't know if I want
just
to be. I don't know if I want to be a 1B. Now, even though I think the best play for him is to stay with the Yankees.
Yeah,
I just
I don't know. It's just because like it's crazy because he won a World Series when he was like 20 years old. So like all that's left to do is just get the big contract. But because he's still so young, like he could still win a few more. And call me crazy, but under new ownership, does Juan Soto go to the Baltimore Orioles? Like, am I crazy for suggesting that?
depending on the money. Because I believe the Orioles are going to let go of Anthony Santander at the end of the season. I don't think they're going to pay him the amount of money that frankly he deserves, or frankly the money that other teams are going to be willing to pay him.
Yeah.
I
I don't
think
know. It's just like so if Santander leaves,
there's a corner outfield position available. That's the thing.
there's an outfield position that's available and new ownership is there and they bought the team for a stupendous amount of money. And not only is an outfield spot open, it's right field, and you could have Kauser, Mullins, and Soto. And then, my God, you look at that lineup with Rutschman, Holiday, Henderson, Kauser, Soto. I mean, this team could just be so good.
It is
Westberg, too.
it is a really good lineup. That's what I don't know. I think it would
The
make sense for
Jays
him.
fan is trembling.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's already in the AL East. What more am I gonna do about it, man? He's already playing on the Yankees. If he goes to the Orioles, it makes the Yankees worse at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, his best interest would be to go up north and play for the Blue Jays. You know, we got some
Yeah.
corner outfield positions available. You know, we have to move
Yeah.
Varsho to center field.
Oh, yeah. Well, so, I mean, Otani was almost there.
Hey, you could play with yeah, maybe Juan Soto's on the plane.
Soto's on a plane to Toronto.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think that I don't know if Juan Soto wants to be a number two for even though I think that, like I said, it's the best thing for him to stay a number two and
Hmm.
fortify that lineup with Judge.
Hmm.
But I don't know if he stays there. One last question I'll ask you, very quick. What is your World Series prediction right now?
My World Series prediction right now, and you know what, like I'm gonna be biased just because I don't really trust anyone in the National League. I'm gonna go Dodgers Astros for the rematch.
The rematch, the trash can rematch.
I'm gonna go with Dodgers Astros for the rematch. That's my World Series prediction.
See, that sucks because I was also gonna pick the Astros.
All right.
I wasn't gonna pick the Dodgers. So I was
Well,
thinking
sorry.
because
Well, then your opinion doesn't matter. Then we don't have to hear it.
I was thinking, unfortunately, I was thinking Astros Phillies. I was thinking a rematch of 2022.
Oh,
I was thinking that as a potential rematch, just because I don't know. I
yeah.
think the Phillies rotation has been, you know, Zach Wheeler's been a monster at the head of that rotation. I just think that could be a potential rematch, Phillies and Astros.
Yeah, my only thing, and I mean, obviously, like that's the thing is just like so many teams in the MLB are just vulnerable where it's just like I don't know what goes on, but I mean, as we're recording right now, the Phillies are down 7-0 in the top of the seventh to the Houston Astros. I think it's fair to say that this is Taijuan Walker's last appearance with the Phillies, but you just look at it. I mean, obviously they'll still have the two-headed monster at the top with Nola and Wheeler. Um, it's just who's that third guy for them. And I think you can make the same argument with the Dodgers. It's just like you would have at this point, you'd be more confident that Yamamoto comes back before Glass now, and you have Glass now and Flaherty, but then is Stone that third guy? But yeah, I just think there's so much vulnerability in the MLB.
Yeah, I think Ranger Suarez, he had that really hot start to the year, and I don't know if you can really trust him as a third guy, but he's been a really good piece for the Phillies right now. And Christopher Sanchez has also been decent.
Mhm.
It's really been that fifth spot in the rotation. Like Taijuan Walker's given up 13 hits so far in this game,
Yeah,
so he's
he's
he's out of the
done.
game.
He's done.
He's cooked as a
I looked at Taiwan Walker's baseball savant and I genuinely couldn't believe what I was looking at. Like, have you taken a look at Taiwan Walker's baseball savant this year?
I'm looking at it right now.
It is a strikeout percentage at 18 and a half. He walks about 10%. Hard hit rate is 50%.
He's cold as ice. His expected ERA 670. He's at a fastball velo of only 91 miles per hour. His exit velocity is 92 miles per hour.
That's his
They're
average exit velo.
yeah.
And he
He's not
doesn't
he's
get anyone to chase or with.
no one to chase. He's walking he's walking 10% of batters. Wow.
Dude, a 50% hard hit rate is disgusting.
That's insane. And
And
that's
it's
somebody
probably going
who
to increase after today because
yeah,
what he gave up 13 hits, and like
yeah,
even some of his hits that he gave up like should have been home runs in like some ballparks.
yeah. That
Like
he's been and it's just been a really bad season for
oh.
him. Somebody who should have stayed in Toronto after his 2020, but lucky.
Oh, I think that will want to call it.
Yeah, I think that was just about do it for this episode of Breaking News Bears. I once again want to thank my co-host Evan Davis for his thoughts and opinions. I once again want to thank you guys, the listeners. We'll be back next week for another episode, and thank you again once for listening.
Cheers, guys.